where he ends up, Curtis Jones, is a very, very similar position to where Trent would have been when he was playing inside as a fullback.
Just on the opposite side.
But it's like that you'd call it the inside channel, or some people call it the half spaces. It's actually a rotation that we used to do a lot under Rafa when we used to play the 4-2-3-1, where it was a fullback would run away, midfielder would come into that space. I've been happy with Salah not tracking back because he scored so many goals over the last however many years. The hardest thing in the world to do is score goals. So the fact that he didn't really have to defend, and then we could find him in transition, is the reason why he scored so many goals. The reason why his numbers are so high is because that was the role he was given. If that role has now changed and Salah's now expected to do more defensive work and he's going to be in a defensive position, his numbers are going to go down. So you've got to decide, what do you want? You can't do both. I mean, if you look at Messi, doesn't have to defend. If you look at Ronaldo, he didn't have to defend. They got the most amount of goals because they were so good on the attacking side of the game.
That's really interesting.
First time I've said something interesting.
Today, yeah. There you go then. That is Preston Matters. We're going to top that. You just said something that interesting. Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. It is Preston Matters with Mr. Paul Dalglish as ever. We're back again, mate.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this one, but we've got to thank our partners first and foremost. Oosh.co.uk. My word, is there an incredible competition running for you guys right now. The draw for this is the 18th of December. It is currently the 16th of December when we are filming this. By the 18th, you need to get your name into the hat for this one, because as you can see, you can win 2 hospitality tickets to Liverpool versus Leeds, and every single penny of this goes to Fans Supporting Foodbanks. We've been a huge proponent of Fans Supporting Foodbanks for the longest time now. We believe in what they do in and around the community and for people in Liverpool and beyond, actually, as well. And so when Oosh got in touch with us earlier on in the year about us partnership, we wanted to make sure that there was a charity element to that sponsorship. And what was brilliant about Oosh, there was no pushback. They were made up to actually do it with us. So this is it. We're giving 2 tickets away to Liverpool versus Leeds. Not only that, you're getting Crown Plaza hospitality package, complimentary programme, reception drink, buffet, your match tickets in the Annie Road stand, a stunning 2-bedroom apartment in Liverpool city centre for a night as well. 99p to get into it.
I thought you got to keep the apartment.
Mate, no, for one night. A 2-bedroom apartment for one night in Liverpool city centre. And it's 99p an entry, so you've got to do it, and there's only 4,000 entries, so please, you can have 100 per person, maximum inputs into this. But the most important part of this is that oosh.co.uk will be giving every single penny to Fans Supporting Foodbanks, so please support us by supporting Fans Supporting Foodbanks. Get over to oosh.co.uk and get involved in the charity draw. We are here, though, to talk Liverpool Football Club. It's not been that long since we sat down at the Tactics Board, Paul, and yet so much has changed already, because we started Inter Milan last week. We spoke about it. I've set it up as a 4-1-2-1-2. I know you want to talk rhombus with me.
Well, yeah, because it was really. I think you had Gravenberg. It was fluid, you know, but it was more for me. It was more. You know what I mean? We had one. It was off centre. It was a little bit asymmetrical, which is fine, you know. And then that was central. So it was a little bit more like that. Now, as we've said before, sometimes it's tactics, sometimes it's player profile. So, you know, with the energy that he's got, then he can make it look like that, really, when he might have been there. You know, just sometimes it's player profile. But I think what we're getting now is we're getting these two, really, that are controlling the game. They're so complete in terms of their ability to dribble, their ability to solve pressure. I think the technical term is press resistant. I think for holding midfield players. They're so press resistant because they're so good on the dribble that it's really given us a real good platform to build from.
Absolutely. And then obviously we come into the game at the weekend and we want to focus on the Brighton game. Of course, we made a couple of changes, didn't we? We brought Kerkez in for Andy Robertson. I think we brought Wirtz in for Alexander Isak. Now, how did you have this one?
Well, it was 2 different formations, really. There was an attacking formation and there was a defensive formation. So we defended in a 4-4-2, and McAllister went up with Ekitike.
Nope.
Ekitike.
Correct.
Ekitike. What?
Ekitike?
Yeah, I'm only messing with it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I was only joking. So Ekitike went up, and then what happened in possession? They defended the 4-4-2 medium block, and then in possession, Szoboszlai pushed up. He went there. He dropped in and went up, but it was really, really narrow to begin with. Mm-hmm. And what we found was, it went in the previous game, we talked about having those 6 players central and allowing the control in the central areas. And that really gave us control of the game. But we've been really transitional, I think, this season, where we've given up too many chances. And what this has done, it's given us the control back in the middle of the pitch. We spoke about last season when Trent went inside, Diaz dropped off, that we had that same number. Sometimes it was 7 almost in there. And we had all these number 7s that helped us control the game. We've got this back now. And then what it allowed Gomez to do and allowed Kerkez to do was that. And it was, I actually thought at the start of the game, it was really, really impressive. I thought we started the game really, really, really well.
Yeah, well, we certainly did. Obviously, the early goal helped, but I think you're right. The build-up play and everything, the attacking, some of the moves that we were playing. There's one on the edge of the area where Vert ends up flicking it to Ekitike, who has that volley, and it was some stunning football at times. Now, one of the things that I think we need to talk about, and it's not the sexiest of things, talking about build-up play, Paul. We've got a couple of stills from the game here to talk us through first and foremost, and then we'll get your expertise on the board, of course. But if you can go to the first graphic, please, Aaron, you can see this, exactly what you're talking about actually on the board now. You can see Curtis Jones and Ryan Gravenberch in a 2. And I've drawn the line between them so that you can see them. You can see this really narrow 3 ahead of them, of Szoboszlai, of Alexis McAllister and Florian Wirtz. And you can see the fullback, the highest player forwards on this in the top, Joe Gomez, and Kerkez is down at the bottom. Unfortunately, it's hidden by our logo. You can just about see his head. And if you just move on to the next one now as well, there's this. Now, this is really interesting for me, Paul. I've highlighted 3 players in yellow. Now, these 3 players I've highlighted this time: Joe Gomez, Dominic Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, all of them with the hand out, all of them saying calm, slow, while Alisson's on the ball. 5 seconds later on the clock of the game, look where Curtis Jones goes in the next one. Boomf, left back. And Kerkez has gone forwards. Now, I want to talk to you about that build-up play and why you might do what Liverpool did there.
Well, the other piece is, so it was Van Dijk on the ball, right? It was, yeah. So Van Dijk on the ball. So there's 2 different ways that you can draw out pressure from the opposition. If Van Dijk's on the ball, he can dribble, commit a defender. So if he's on the ball and he starts dribbling, now the defender commits, and now what you do is, if Curtis Jones comes here or if he comes here, now you can take this player out the game with one pass. Now, if he doesn't dribble with the ball and he stays where he is, and Van Dijk plays that pass to Curtis Jones, now this player can defend. So it's about maximising the 2v1. So the other way you can do it is, if Van Dijk, and you saw the players saying slow down, if Van Dijk holds the ball, I think the key thing is, if you show the graphics again, is where Brighton are. Because if you look how compact they are there in that image, and you can see, and then when you watch the next image,
and if you move on to the next one, Aaron,
now you can see they've created space in behind the press.
Yes.
So by Van Dijk holding the ball, the other way that you can do it is, if you stand still and you hold the ball, then the player has to come to you. Now you create the 2v1 again by standing still, because you can either move the ball or you can move the opposition, to quote Guardiola. And on this occasion, Van Dijk moved the opposition by attracting pressure, and then that frees up Curtis Jones. The key point as well, though, is that space in the first clip, Kerkez is actually in a deeper position. Kerkez needs to create that space for Curtis Jones to come in by running away. And I thought Joe Gomez did it really well on the other side. So when he creates that space by running away, then that is the platform. And where he ends up, Curtis Jones, is a very, very similar position to where Trent would have been when he was playing inside as a fullback.
Just on the opposite side.
But it's like that you'd call it the inside channel, or some people call it the half spaces. But if you're inside. Now, the beauty of getting it here rather than on the touchline is now you can go left or you can go right. You can go in, you can go outside.
Touchline's not a defender.
Yeah, exactly. So now you're giving yourself more space to go in different directions. So it's actually a rotation that we used to do a lot under Rafa when we used to play the 4-2-3-1, where it was a fullback would run away, midfielder would come into that space. Now, what we also saw, and I think we're going to get to it, is if for whatever reason, I think Konate more drifts wide, Van Dijk likes to stay a little bit more central. But when Konate, when he goes into this space, now there's no room to come outside if the centre-back's wide. So what you can then find to get the third man in the build-up, now that can happen. Or if Curtis Jones was there, then Gravenberch can come in and now you can get it. So the position of the centre-backs determines whether you check inside or whether you check outside to get on the ball and create the third man in the build-up. And
let's just see that for the sake of completeness. If we bring up the next graphic, please, you can see Curtis Jones dropping in between Ibou Konate and Virgil van Dijk, exactly like Paul's mentioned. Now again, Brighton very compact. Actually, Kirk is a little bit deeper here and we've got a little bit of width. What I wanted to speak about though at this point actually, Paul, is why you think Curtis was chosen to do this role more than Gravenberch in this game, because we've seen Gravenberch do it more throughout the season, but Curtis in particular seems to have been the guy who was trusted this time around.
Trusted or available. You know, I think maybe because Gravenberch maybe has been the focal point of the build-up, they might have had more people around him. You know, if you look in that situation there's 4 players around Gravenberch.
Yeah.
So, whereas Curtis Jones is free. So, it might just be the beauty of, I think they're very, very similar, to be honest. You know, in terms of the profile. They're both exceptional dribblers.
Great on the half turn as well.
Yeah, and they can solve pressure. They're so press resistant. So for me, that's the beauty of it. If one of them can't get on it, then the other one can. And it's very difficult to stop both of them. And both of them can receive the ball in tight spaces. They can receive the ball under pressure. And then gives the centre-backs a real outlet to find them and start the build-up.
One of the things I've been talking about this season, I felt one of the problems Liverpool have had is in build-up phase. And it's interesting that you mentioned the third man in the build-up there, because I felt like Liverpool have been building up. I'm just going to put it into a 4-3-3, a nominal 4-3-3. I felt like Liverpool have been building up with a 2 and a 3, and I felt we'd be better off with a 3 and a 2. And then actually you can get more bodies back in there as well, because teams seem to really pressure Konate a lot. They wouldn't press Van Dijk because they know how good a passer he is. But I felt the extra man in build-up was always going to help us this season. So it's good to see the manager doing that, isn't it?
I also think what you found, it wasn't just 3, Chris. You had Alisson joining in the build-up as well. So it creates 4. Now, what I would say is, you don't want to commit too many people to the first line if the opposition aren't pressing with many, because then you're going to be numbers down in the second phase. So if someone presses with 2, then you need, if them 2 go away, then you need one of the midfielders to come and join. You need a +1. Yeah, you need a +1. Now, if they press like that, then why would you need him in? You know, then what you can do, you stack these 2, play in there, you've got these guys in here. Then that would be, if they're stacked like that, then that's when that becomes an option. Then you get it in there, because it's very difficult for this player to get all the way out here to press. So it really does depend. It really does depend. Like, Bruce Lee, be like water. So like you evolve your build-up shape around the structure of the opposition. So yeah, but being flexible is key. And also, as we said earlier, the flexibility is as well. Van Dijk tends to go there, so that naturally leaves a space for Curtis Jones. Konate goes there, that leaves a space for Gravenberch or Curtis Jones to go in there.
But the key to this, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong here, is Kirkes and opening that space up for Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
Now, in build-up, he's been there. Is this the manager starting to trust Kirkes to be able to go both ways?
I think the reason why Kirkes can go is because most of the season it was him by himself and then you had McAllister one side and Szoboszlai the other side. Now, when you've only got one, then
you need the plus one.
And sometimes it was like this. You know, sometimes Andy Robbo, especially last season, would stay back in the build-up. And then people say, oh, it was Andy Robbo's legs. I don't think they had. I just think that he was just playing with the handbrake on a lot of times last season because Trent was given the license to go inside. So Robbo had to stay back to create that third man in the build-up. Whereas when you've got, when you've got two in there, now you can still, now both of them can run away at the same time now.
Because
and then one can
go.
Yeah, one can go and one can stay. Now, it's very, very similar. We spoke about before, right? Very, very similar. For both fullbacks to go, we've spoke about you need cover. So we've spoke about this before as well. Playing like this, right? Playing like this. This is what we've spoken about before. It's the same thing. It allows these spaces here, but the key to it is the fullbacks running away to create the space for these in here. Now, what I actually like, if I'm honest, and no credit to Arne a lot. What he's done is by doing this and by having three in this position, by being able to build with four instead of five, we've now got one more player in the higher line, which makes you a lot more dangerous when you do beat the pressure and you do get into the attacking half of the pitch.
So if we focus that in possession, actually before we move on to the outer possession, this narrow three is a really interesting thing. Now, I'm not going to ask you, is it because we've got no wingers? Is this the future? Because I think that's really difficult to answer. And I think everyone would just be guessing. I don't think anyone can know. But one thing is, at Leverkusen, this man played in a narrow three, didn't he? Because they had Frimpong raiding down that sort of right-hand side. And was it Getrude?
Well, they played with a back three at times, didn't they? So they attacked in a 3-4-2-1 at times, and he was like a left-sided 10 playing it in that. So it was a similar position that he was used to, and you saw him, didn't you? I mean, we keep speaking about him. I just think I love watching him. I just think when even his tracking back, his work rate, you know, the cleverness. There was one back heel he did in the first half at the Annie Road end.
To Ekatike?
Oh, and it was unbelievable. I remember, I don't know how he got his body in a position to be able to do it. But he for me, is the one I like watching. I think he really is a special talent. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I think he's one of them that not only does he need to get used to the players he's playing with, but they need to get used to him. Because he can do special things. And
it looks like he's bulking up now as well. I saw him shoulder someone off the ball at the weekend and these types of things. This is all an adaptation to the Premier League type of stuff. So let's talk out of possession then. Obviously, we've talked in possession.
Yeah.
Out of possession for you, Paul, straight up 4-4-2 mid-block?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So it was, you know, got nice and compact. And it was a, mid-block, medium block, whatever you want to call it. And then Szoboszlai just came to the right-hand side. Wirtz dropped back into the left-hand side. McAllister pushed up with the main man of the day and just created a nice and compact 4-4-2.
Okay, we've got a couple of graphics to showcase that as well for you. And you can see, you know, there's the four. I did draw a nice line from Szoboszlai to the other three just to link him because he's a bit more. It could be drawn as a 4-3-3 that, if I'm being honest. And then if we look at the next one as well, it's a bit more of an obvious 4-4-2 mid block. I wanted to ask a question. We talk about mid blocks, we talk about low blocks, we talk about the high press. Why would a manager decide to use a mid block or a coach?
Well, the thing is, so just like we spoke about Brighton earlier. So if you've got players there, we spoke about Van Dijk holding the ball to attract a team towards him, so then you can find the space behind him. Now, if Liverpool go there, and they go there, and they go there, if this back line doesn't come up as quickly as they go, now you can start leaving space between the lines. So one of the coaching terms that you could use would be, if you stay patient in your mid block, right? And it's normally away from home. Your teams do this a little bit more, but if you stay patient in your medium block, they've got to come to you eventually. But if you don't stay patient and you start getting drawn out, that's when spaces start opening up. So just being nice and patient, nice and compact in that medium block it made it very, very difficult for teams to play through you, because you've just got to be patient. And as I said, the thought process is, if you stay in position, they've got to come to you eventually if they want to score. And especially scoring early, then Liverpool are ahead. So Brighton now have to score.
Now their game plan may not change fully until the second half. Correct. If it was still 1-0, but...
Correct. But if when you score the first goal, then you're in control, because they need to come at you if they want to get anything from the game. Mm-hmm. So that allows you to be more in a medium block, make them come to you, stay nice and compact, and then try and punish them in transition.
Why do you think Arne Slot is using a mid block?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think we were far too open. You know, trying to press. I don't think we had our timing right. I think we were far too open press, and we've conceded a lot of goals this season. So he probably looked at it and said, right, yeah, I like to press. Yeah, I like to put teams under pressure. However, I like to keep clean sheets more. And I think that in the interest of not conceding goals, I think it's been a really, really positive change, is to not be as aggressive in the press, be more in a mid-block, and then wait for the opposition to come and stay nice and compact, keep the distances between the lines nice and small.
And one player in this that we've spoken about a little bit about is Florian Wirtz. I mean, he's having to do quite a lot of running. Gakpo's taken up this role at times when he's played on the left, and he's ended up in, it was a 4-3-3 mid or a 4-4-2 mid at times. It's interesting that he's the one doing that and not McAllister. Or is it just because he's more central?
Well, I think we talk about player profiles as well. Wirtz doesn't want to be there, right? So when Gakpo plays, he's going to be there, and it's probably a good time. And that's why we say sometimes it's tactics, and sometimes you give the manager all the credit, but sometimes it's just the natural tendencies of the player. You know, sometimes you blame the manager, and it's the player that's making the choices. You know, a lot of times it's hard to know whether it's tactical information, or it's the player tendencies. And I think what you find, as we said, Liverpool, he likes to be central, he pushed up, he likes to be inside, he likes to play inside, and then that's how you end up in this structure. Now, what we've also got to reference is when the change was made and Joe went off, Szoboszlai went back, and Salah came on.
Yep.
Then it changed a little bit because of player tendencies. So Salah now wants to be here. So now you still had that up there and that in there, but now you had Salah out there.
So I mean, I thought Salah had an okay game. I thought he was good at times. I thought some balmy passes. Everyone makes mistakes. I'm not going to hold it against him, but I did fundamentally change the shape. And what I was really happy with is that he did work back. Yeah. And he got himself into that mid block. Yeah. But the fluidity of the central passing changed, didn't it?
It did. Maybe not. Well, it's just the distances became bigger. You know, so with Salah out there, but the one thing is with Salah, you're saying he's happy trapped back. I've been happy with Salah not tracking back because he scored so many goals over the last however many years. You know, so the hardest thing in the world to do is score goals. So the fact that he didn't really have to defend, and then we could find him in transition, is the reason why he scored so many goals. The reason why his numbers are so high is because that was the role he was given. Now, if that role has now changed and Salah's now expected to do more defensive work and he's going to be in a defensive position, his numbers are going to go down. So you've got to decide, what do you want? You can't do both. Like, he can't have, I mean, if you look at Messi, doesn't have to defend. If you look at, Ronaldo would attack a centre, he defend as a centre forward, attack on the left-hand side. He didn't have to defend. They got the most amount of goals because they were so good on the attacking side of the game. Then they said, right, you focus on that. We're not as good on the attacking side of the game, but we can do the defensive work for you, so you can do what you do. So, as I said, every attacking position, every attacking formation, there's a defensive consequence, and vice versa.
So, what did you think of Salah on the day?
Do you know what? I thought he played well. I think you can tell that what's happened affected him, because I think he played a different game.
Think he was more of a teammate?
I do, yeah. I really do. I think that it obviously affected him, and I think he was trying to combine a lot more than what is normal. And I think he also defended and trapped back a lot more than what is normal. And it was interesting. Lovren put a tweet out, didn't he?
Yeah, I heard them talking about this in the office about, I don't know whether it was a tweet or he commented on Instagram, something.
Yeah, there was something. So it's obviously, it was obviously noticed as well. And they're very close, aren't they? So as I said to you, the Salah situation, let's see how it plays out. He's away. He's away for the international tournament. So let's see how it plays out.
So what's next for Liverpool then in this while Salah is away? Is it, until Gakpo comes back, we're playing the...
How far away is he, Chris?
Not sure exactly. I can have a little check right now.
Because, again, just like when we talk about the difference between player profiles and we talk about the difference between tactical information, Salah, obviously, his natural tendency is to play wider. Gakpo's natural tendency is to play wider, and then we're going to lose that. We're going to lose that central dominance that we've been having. And the other thing that could be an issue, if you swap this, if Kerkez goes into this space and Gakpo's already in this space, they're in the same space and they're in the same line. So if you want to attack, if Kerkez is here and Gakpo's here, if he plays to Gakpo, it's a straight pass. And it's very, very difficult, unless the ball's played over the top, for Gakpo to go forward. So he's going to come back and come in. Now, if Gakpo is inside and Kerkez is there, he can make that run to that pass, and now he can get in behind. What you don't want to be as a winger is in the same line. So if Kerkez is inside, which is where Trent was on the other side last year, and Salah was outside, then you can play that pass. You can still attack, you can get in behind. When you receive a ball as an attacking player, what you want to have is a front foot and a back foot. So if you play it to the front foot, that means you're marked, and that means you can come backwards. If you've got space in behind, then play the ball to the back foot so you can go in behind. But for you to be able to have a front foot and a back foot, you need to have an angle for the pass. And I think that if he ends up playing wide, I think it limits Kerkez. And I think it takes away Kerkez's biggest strength, which is running up and down the line. Well,
it says it's weeks anyway with Cody Gakpo. So we're not going to have Mo Salah for weeks. We're not going to have Cody Gakpo for weeks. Right now, Frimpong's close. Conor Bradley's, he was suspended at the weekend, picked up that knock, which is why he didn't start against Inter Milan. We're on the edges here, aren't we, of a bit of a crisis in terms of fullback. Obviously, Joe Gomez went off. I mean, you don't really want to end up having to play Szoboszlai there because he's such a force here. He's got the most goal involvement of any player this season. You don't want Szoboszlai at right back. I actually, when that change got made, I was like, because I want to see him on the attacking side of the pitch. Now, don't get me wrong, he can do a job at right back. He can do a job anywhere because he's so athletic. But for me, I want to see him higher up the pitch. We spoke about it, Chris, earlier. The bit I don't understand, for me, I would have kept that. I would have kept that the same, and I'd have just brought Robbo on. I know he's left-footed, but I'd have just brought him on at right back. I mean, you do it on the other side, where you put a right footer on the left-hand side. Carragher was an example. It might not be as attacking, but then you keep this central structure here. Now, Salah did well when he came on, but I like the tactical setup. I like the way we looked at the beginning of the game. As I said, I like it when we've got these 6 players central to control the middle of the pitch. And I think when we made that change and we brought Salah on, where is he? Then that really happened. And the same thing we spoke about Kerkez and Gakpo, then we had the same thing with Salah and Szoboszlai. And I think he is arguably been our best player this season. Yeah, I think so. So you want him
as high up the pitch as possible, where he can show us what he can do.
And of course, the manager had Calvin Ramsey on the bench, but chose not to use him, and that's understandable. I suppose he's, last time he played was the Crystal Palace game, but I thought he had a good first 45 minutes in the Palace game, to be fair to him. So yeah, I mean, it is going to be really interesting, and I think the manager's he's going to try and get Frimpong and Conor Bradley in at some point. But if it is Szoboszlai, and we've seen a lot of Szoboszlai at right back, what happens here? Could someone like a Federico Chiesa play there, or are we likely to see a bit more of that sort of diamond with Isak as well? Where do you sort of see us going from here?
Well, we spoke.
I do like Chiesa, man. I really like Chiesa.
He's your favourite, isn't
he? He is, but I don't think Slot thinks of him as a winger. I don't think he thinks his body can do winger things. I think he thinks 20 minutes up front. That's what I think the manager thinks of him.
Yeah.
A lot of people always say winger, but the manager doesn't play him there.
No.
So he doesn't think he's a winger.
Listen, you might be right, but I actually think with the injuries that he's had, he might be better central. I mean, the pass that he played for Salah in the second half at the top end was unbelievable. He's got
shot.
And you know what? For me, even it's like, it's hard to talk about it, but even, and it sounds ridiculous, even the fact that he's got a song that gets the whole ground up, it gives the place a lift. It changes the atmosphere in the stadium when he comes on. And he just, his enthusiasm, the song starts and he feeds off it, he runs round and he gives us a spark, he gives us energy. I think he's a brilliant impact player. I really do. I think he gives us a great impact off the bench, and it's hard, isn't it? Because you want players that can come on and change the game, pick up the pace of the game, and he can do that. And that's a real skill, a real advantage. We talk about what we might do, say it's Conor Bradley or say Frimpong's back. This we've spoke about, what we want, if we've got Kerkez and Frimpong and they're the future, or Conor Bradley, then you need what we saw Joe Gomez and what we saw Kerkez do. Now, you need a striker. Now, you can either do a 2 and a 3, or a 3 and a 2, or a 3, a 1 and a 2. It doesn't really matter the setup here, as long as you've got the numbers. Doesn't really matter. I think
that was key. So left on there.
So it doesn't really matter as long as you've got the numbers. We want both of them to go. Now, in some games, you might go like that. You might go with him there. You might go at Wirtz there. You might go, say you took McAllister off. Where's you go with Isak. Now you've got that same thing there. He can play on the left-hand side. So you could do that. Or you can drop him down. You can have him there and push them two up. I think what this structure does, the fullbacks, these two need to be wide. They need to give us the width. These two need to be central. I think this can adapt based on who's available. But I do think it can be a 3-1-2. It can be a 2. It can be a
2-3-1.
2-3-1.
2-2-2.
Yeah, it can be whatever. You could even go with 2 up.
And this is the thing.
And you could go with 2 like that. You could do whatever you want, because it all depends on the structure of the opposition. Don't want to say it again because it sounds weird, but you've got to adapt. Your system needs to be fluid based on the opposition. So if you need 4 in the 3 in the build-up, you can have one of these drop in. If you need 2, then they can stay high.
And this is the difference, I think, between philosophy and tactics. I think Arne Slot's philosophy is that he wants to own and control the central areas of the pitch, and your tactics can be manipulated to do that.
Do you think he does?
Yeah.
Because I think he always likes to play with wingers.
I think he does that for the central areas. I think he likes to build centrally to go out to, and then. Because he seems to like wingers. He seems to like having a wide player on the pitch. I agree with that, but I think it's a consequence of him building through the centre.
Yeah, but potentially. But I actually think that the most effective, we've looked much better when we've not played with wingers this season. Now, I don't want to talk about last season, but this season for sure, we've looked much better when we didn't play with wide players. When we played the formation that had the central dominance, we've played much better. And for me, I think it makes sense for that to continue.
Absolutely. Well, we'll find out, I suppose, in January what Slot's future plans are, because this is the thing. The questions that keep coming to me are, well, is this it now? Well, if we sign Semenyo, wingers aren't over.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's when you'll get that. And this is the problem with, I think, everybody has with football content. It's a grey. We exist in a grey area. Yeah. We're never in the rooms. We never hear these things. So you can only see what's on the football pitch. You only see the top of the iceberg. Yeah. You don't see the inner workings, and you can only assume what's going on elsewhere.
But you know what? Sometimes, I've always found. So when I was coaching, I was managing. Sometimes you can have training ground superstars, you know. And sometimes you can pick a team, you're watching training, you're going, I've got to get him in the team. Then they turn up on a Saturday or they turn up for a game and you're like, oh, I've done it again. Why did I put him in the team? He performs in training. You get some people that don't train well. And then they perform. And sometimes you're like, oh, I can't pick him.
Which one's Gazer?
No, I don't know, but I just sometimes the only thing that really matters in the grand scheme of things is how you perform in games, because that's when points are won. And sometimes as fans, that's all we see. So sometimes it can actually have a less blurred opinion of players' performances when you don't see training.
That's really interesting.
First time I've said something interesting.
Today, yeah. There you go then. That is Preston Matters. We're going to top that. You just said something that interesting.
Oh, I fell off my chair. I've got a new hoodie on. I said something interesting.
Hoodie.
It's been a good
hoodie.
day.
I tell you what, though, we'll have to release the falling off the chair thing on Instagram or something. You have to follow us, see if we do. It's at the Redmen TV on Instagram. Paul, it's been a pleasure as always, mate. I thoroughly enjoy listening to you talk about tactics, and I take it back. It wasn't the only interesting thing.
Oh, no, really enjoyed it, Chris.
Yeah,
thank you as always.
We'll see you again after Christmas. Don't forget to get involved with oosh.co.uk and their charity giveaway for Fans Supporting Foodbanks. Get over to oosh.co.uk. Big thank you to them, of course, and a big thank you to Paul Dalglish giving up his time once again to talk tactics with me on Pressing Matters.